The AWS Management Console is a web application that comprises and refers to a broad collection of service consoles for managing AWS resources. When you first sign in, you see the console homepage. The homepage provides access to each service console and offers a single place to access the information that you need to perform your AWS-related tasks. It also lets you customize the console home experience by adding, removing, and rearranging widgets. By the end of this module, you will be able to understand and successfully navigate through the AWS Management Console, understand billing considerations, and gain hands-on experience. Choose Next to get started. By the end of this section, you will know how to set up your AWS account, launch the AWS Management Console, understand its purpose, and know how to interact with its features. Please note that when you're working through courses and labs in AWS Educate, you're in a lab platform that doesn't use your own account. This enables you to practice without impacting your own account services. Now let's get started by learning how to launch the AWS Management Console. Before you begin, it's important to note that the console can look different when it's accessed in different ways, such as through your own account or through granted access to another's account as an IAM user. To begin, open the Amazon Web Services homepage. Here you will choose Create an AWS account. If you signed in to AWS recently, that option might not be there. If it's not there, choose Sign In or Complete Sign Up. Next, you will choose to sign up as a root user or an IAM user. Because of the critical nature of the AWS account root user, we strongly recommend that you use an email address that can be accessed by a group rather than only an individual. That way, if the person who signed up for the AWS account leaves the company, the account can still be used because the email address is still accessible. If you lose access to the email address that's associated with the AWS account, then you can't recover access to the account if you ever lose the password. Enter your account information, then choose Verify Email Address. This will send a verification code to the specified email address. After the verification process is complete, you will be able to access the AWS Management Console home. The console homepage is what you will see every time that you log directly into the AWS Management Console. You can customize the console view to meet your needs. Widgets display important information about your AWS environment and provide shortcuts to your services. You can customize your experience by rearranging the widgets or adding and removing them. To add a widget, choose Add Widgets on the upper or lower right side of the page. In the Add Widgets menu, select the widgets you want to add to the console and then choose Add. To remove a widget, choose the widget's menu icon represented by 3 vertical dots and choose Remove Widget. To rearrange your widgets, choose the widget's title bar to drag and drop it. To resize a widget, choose the menu icon and choose Change Size. Choose your preferred view and choose Change Size. Please note that some widgets, such as Explore AWS, do not support changing size. To reset the page back to the default layout, choose Reset to Default Layout and then Reset. To save a widget as a favorite, choose Add Widgets and then select Favorites. After it's added, scroll to the bottom of the page and then drag and drop it to the top of the page. Please note that any changes that you make to your console won't affect the view of shared users. Also, you can't create or customize widgets. The AWS Management Console provides multiple ways for navigating to individual service consoles. To open a console for a service, do one of the following. In the search box on the navigation bar, enter all or part of the name of the service. Then choose the service that you want from the list of search results. In the Recently Visited Services widget, choose a service name. In the Recently Visited Services widget, choose View All AWS Services. Then, on the All AWS Services page, choose a service name. On the navigation bar, choose Services to open a full list of services. Again, you have several options here. You can choose a service under Recently Visited, Favorites, or All Services shown on the top left. Or you can choose a service category to be shown a list of all the services, or you can choose the services from the Recently Visited panel. To access your frequently used services more quickly, you can save their service consoles to a list of favorites. Please note that favorites are currently stored in browser cookies. If you delete your cookies between console sessions, your list of favorites will be cleared. You can add a favorite widget by choosing Add Widgets. In the Add Widgets dialog box, select Favorites and then choose Add. The Favorites widget will be added to the bottom of your console home. You will need to scroll to it and then drag and drop the Favorites wizard to a new location on the page. To add services to the Favorites widget, in the navigation bar, choose Services. In either the Recently Visited list or the All Services list, hover over the name of the service that you want to add as a favorite. Choose the star to the left of the service name. This will turn the star orange, designating that service as a favorite. Repeat the steps to add all the services that you want to your favorites list. In this section, you learn how to set up an AWS account, how to launch the AWS Management Console and understand its purpose, and how to interact with its features. Please review the key takeaways for this section and additional resources to further your learning. Choose Next to continue. By the end of this section, you will be familiar with AWS regions and their impact on services and billing, describe AWS payment models, and understand how to use AWS Cost Explorer to view and analyze your AWS costs and usage. When choosing services on the AWS console, it's important to understand the impact of AWS regions. A region is an isolated geographic area where AWS data centers house the hardware that's used for building cloud infrastructure. When choosing services, it's a best practice to choose the region that your service is available in and closest to your customers. For example, if an American company will be hosting a new network for customers in Australia, then the company should choose the region for Sydney, Australia. This region is the closest to the customers and will help reduce latency. It's important to understand that the region you choose impacts the services that are available to you, the cost of services, and the latency to users. However, regions don't impact the security of your data, the access to your data, or the amount of data you can store. Additionally, regional data compliance requires that certain data must remain in a particular region for legal reasons. Not all services are available in every region. In this example, the service on the left is available across all the AWS regions. The service on the right, which shows many services grayed out, is available in only a few regions. Northern Virginia is the primary region for AWS. It provides access to all AWS services and should be considered the region to use when training on AWS. AWS regions consist of one or more isolated locations known as availability zones. Availability zones are comprised of a small campus of buildings, or data centers, with ultra-low latency and redundancy. They are connected to each other and the internet so that they won't be simultaneously impacted by a shared fate scenario like earthquakes or common points of failure like generators. With AWS, you pay as you go. That means you pay only for the services that you need for as long as you use them, without requiring long-term contracts or complex licensing. This enables organizations to remain agile, responsive, and always able to meet scaling demands. Choose each payment model to learn more. To help new AWS customers get started in the cloud, AWS offers a free usage tier, the AWS Free tier, for new customers for up to 1 year. While the free tier is active, you can try out select services to experiment and see what's right for you. Whether the services will be used for production or non-production environments doesn't affect the free usage tier offerings. There are 3 types of offers. The free trials are short-term free trial offers that start from the date that you activate a particular service. There's also a 12-month free offer that expires 1 year after your initial sign-up date to AWS. There are some always free tiers that do not expire and are always available to all AWS customers. These always free offerings are often based on basic configurations and quotas. Please note that the free tier 12-month offering doesn't cover high-performance compute instances. Be sure to review the pricing for services that you use. You should understand how the choices you make affect billing. For example, when you stop an EC2 instance, you will still be charged for volume resources, but not computing resources. Use AWS Cost Explorer to view and analyze your AWS costs and usage. This tool provides default reports that help you visualize cost and usage at a high level for AWS accounts and services, or at the resource level such as the EC2 instance ID. Pricing for AWS services varies by region. For example, if an application is using AWS Lambda in the US and Ireland regions, the cost is the same, because Lambda pricing is the same in the US and Ireland. However, if the application is using AWS Lambda in Hong Kong, the pricing is higher. Similarly, an application using Amazon Kinesis data streams will cost 20% less in the US than in Frankfurt. So it's important that you factor in all the services and the regions to determine the true cost of your AWS services. In this section, you learned how AWS regions impact services and billing, reviewed the AWS payment models, and learned how AWS Cost Explorer enables you to view and analyze your AWS costs and usage. Please review the key takeaways and additional resources to further your learning. Choose Next to continue. In this section, you will practice some of the things that you've learned in this course. Choose Next to begin. To get started, you practice finding, launching, and saving services as favorites. There are several ways to get to AWS services. In the practice example, some services can be accessed from the recently visited widget. You can also choose View All Services at the bottom of the widget to navigate to the list of AWS services. You can search for a service using the search box at the top of the page, or you can also choose Services menu at the top left of the page. For this example, choose Services. Note that in the Services menu, you have a few more options to access the AWS services. At the top of the menu, there are 3 additional options: Recently Visited, Favorites, and All Services, as well as a list of the services categories. In this practice example, you are going to search for the service from the category list. If you don't know the service category that you're searching for, you can use the search bar at the top of the menu. But in this case, you know that Amazon S3 is a storage service. However, the S categories aren't on the screen, so you need to scroll to view the rest of the list. Choose the scroll bar. Choose Storage. Now the list of all AWS storage services appear. At this point, you can designate S3 as a favorite service so it will appear in the favorites list. To do this, hover over S3 and a white star will appear. Choose the star and it will turn orange, indicating that S3 is now included in your favorites list. Choose the star next to S3. The star turned orange and you just made S3 a favorite. Now, the next time you want to access S3, it will be shown in your favorites list. To navigate back to the favorites list, use the scroll bar to scroll to the top of the menu. Choose Favorites. And now S3 is listed in your favorites list. Choose S3 to open it. And now you're at the S3 homepage. Let's point to Global Service. Choose Global at the top right of the page. This opens the drop-down list of Regions options. In addition to regional and zonal AWS services, there is a small set of AWS services whose control planes and data planes don't exist independently in each region. Because their resources are not region-specific, they are commonly referred to as global. Global AWS services still follow the conventional AWS design pattern of separating the control plane and the data plane in order to achieve static stability. The significant difference for most global services is that their control plane is hosted in a single AWS region, while their data plane is globally distributed. For your next task, please use the Service menu to find EC2. Choose Services. This time you use the search feature to find EC2. This is particularly helpful if you aren't sure which category a service falls under. Choose the search bar. As you type, options that match your inquiry appear. In this example, EC2 comes up at the top of the results. Note the white star next to it. You should recall from adding S3 to the favorites list that choosing the star will add EC2 to your favorites. Let's do that now. Choose the star. Again, the star is now orange, letting you know that EC2 is also in the favorites category. Additionally, you can see your favorites appearing directly below the Services menu. Now choose EC2. EC2 is a regional service, and you are currently in the Ohio region. All the data that you are seeing here, such as running instances and load balancers, are the resources that you provisioned in the Ohio region. If you were to choose a different region, these values would change to display the services that you're running in that particular region. However, even though EC2 is a regional service, it does have a global view. Choose EC2 Global View at the top of the page. Below Instances shows how many instances that you have in how many regions. In this example, there are 5 instances in 2 regions. Choose Next to continue. Next, use the All Services link to find Amazon Relational Database Service, or Amazon RDS. Choose All Services now. You will need to use the scroll bar to find the service. Choose the scroll bar to find the R section. Choose RDS. Now you are on the Amazon RDS dashboard, and you should notice that there's no global view option here. Remember that not every service is a global service. You have to be very careful about where you provision your resources and note what regions have resources in them. Otherwise, you will need to go from region to region to see whether you have any other databases provisioned. Choose Next to continue. It's important that you understand that you might be charged for services in other regions, so you need to be sure of which region you're looking at. Let's try that now with another service, Amazon Virtual Private Cloud, or Amazon VPC. Choose the Services menu. Choose All Services. Choose the scroll bar to find the V section. Choose VPC. From here, you can see all the regions where you have resources. Choose See All Regions below VPCs. This expands a drop-down list displaying the regions. This completes the hands-on practice. Choose Next to continue. Let's review what was covered during this course. You learned about the features of the AWS Management Console and can successfully navigate through it. You understand the billing considerations of regions and services, and you gained hands-on experience. Congratulations, you successfully completed this course.